Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show, sponsored by our friends over at HM Company at DrainTroughs.com. We've got an exciting episode for you today, and first of all, this is episode 101. So welcome back to another season 6. I never dreamed when we decided to do this, Carla, that we would make it 6 seasons, but we appreciate the support from sponsors like HM Company and Eastern Funding and all of our friends that help us keep this show on the air. And we obviously appreciate our friends and followers that watch the episode. Hopefully you get some value out of this. But today's episode is a fun one. We've got a LinkedIn friend, I guess I would call him, Jon Schemmel, and he's from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And this guy's been busy, Carla, because he has went from 0 laundromats to owning 23 laundromats with a couple business partners of his in 5 years. So for those of you that have built a store or two in 5 years, or like me, went from 0 to 4, which seemed like a lot, this guy's went from 0 to 23. And we're going to share his story of how he put the partnership together. But full disclosure, a little bit of cheat for you. He did grow up in the industry. His dad was a distributor in the industry. I think he hit the ground running pretty quick, but he's going to share a lot of good nuggets with us with how they have built and scaled this business.
But before that, I do want to bring up coming soon, we have the Clean Show. So if you haven't heard, in Orlando, August 23rd through 26th, we will be at the Clean Show, and we hope you can make it too. It is a great chance to network with people from the industry and also a lot of businesses to not just meet the business, but learn about their products and services. And of course, don't forget to check out our booth, Laundry Boost. Our team will be there and can help you vamp up those marketing services to get you more customers quickly. So definitely hope you can make it to the Clean Show. If you can't, still check us out online. We'll be doing some live streams and other things from our booth and from other booths. So definitely check us out online if you can't be there in person. But let's get on with today's episode with Jon Schemmel.
It started as a hobby and it became a small business, and now I'm trying to build it more like a company. Take it from unpassive to semi-passive to passive. You never totally get to this side of the equation. But it's been a heck of a journey. I've learned a lot.
All right, so Jon, welcome to the show.
Than's for having me.
Yeah.
Heard a lot about you guys.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. As I said, we're excited to meet you virtually. You're one of my connections on LinkedIn, which I'm a big fan. Guys, if you're listening out there and you're not on LinkedIn, you should be. Get on there. It's pretty cool to meet people. I bet probably 10, 20% of our guests I've met through LinkedIn, and we start following each other's posts and content. And next thing you know, you realize you have some things in common, and they end up on the show. So appreciate you volunteering your time and sharing your story. Kind of an interesting situation here. You, as I told you before we got started hitting record, you're in a unique situation because I guess I'm going to call you a portfolio investor in the laundromat industry. I don't know if that's how you see it. But Jon and his team own 23 laundromats, I guess any day. You're closing on 23.
Tuesday.
They're operating them across, right now he says 3 states, and apparently adding a few states soon. So this is going to be a little bit different episode, because what I want to do, Jon, is I want to kind of dive into how you got into the industry, because your family's in the industry. Your dad used to be a distributor. I'd love for you to share all that real quick. And you grew up collecting coins like a lot of people in this industry did, and swore you'd never be in the industry, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And next thing you know,
Pretty
you're
much.
full bore in the industry, operating 23 and growing stores. So I know our audience is going to love to hear a little bit about how you portfolio and investment wise build an operation like this. And then of course, operationally, how you actually build a team to operate 23 laundromats across multiple states and continuing to grow. And I think you've done that in a pretty short period of time. Is that right? 0 to 23 in 5 years?
Yeah.
Is that about right?
September 25th of this year will be our 5-year anniversary and closing on the first one. So
Gotcha.
5 year.
Wow.
I guess I wasn't sure, so I'm not on LinkedIn. I know Dave thinks everybody should be on LinkedIn, but I'm just not a social media
I thought
person.
you did all the social media.
No, she doesn't do any of it.
Oh, boy.
No, I have a
It's all me.
Facebook page where I post things of my kids. That's it.
There
I
you
hardly
go.
do that.
She's anti-social media.
I am. But so I knew you invested and you had these 23 laundromats, but you're not just like this passive investor in a lot of locations where other people are managing. You like have your team manages it and everything, right?
Yeah. So I've got 3 partners, and it started with 1, and within 90 days of that, we had 3. But the idea really was the 2 majority investors are myself and my brother-in-law. We married 2 of 5 sisters that grew up on a farm here in Northwest Iowa. So that's kind of how I ended up here from Cincinnati. Again, I miss the city you guys are sitting in right now. And we started with in 18, we started with just Dylan. He reached out to me, and my job at the time, I worked for, now it's called Prismian Cable, the world's largest wiring cable manufacturer. I managed business units for him. My passion's kind of always been around, P&L, just kind of understanding whether it be a manufacturing business or whatever, but understanding how decisions affect your bottom line, et cetera, and then managing towards those actions and decisions. So he reached out in 2018, and I was actually a few beers deep into the Mississippi State LSU football game at a tailgate down in Baton Rouge. He's like, "Hey man, you want to buy this triplex up here?" I was like, "Yeah, sounds great. Let's do it. Let's invent a company around it. This is awesome." So we moved forward with that, and I was like, "Yeah, man." I was like, "If you can just take care of the house, I'll take care of doing the books and stuff." Which I quickly figured out I'm not a very good tax accountant. But then we did like LegalZoom.com and made up a company. And we're like, "What should we call it?" And we said, "I don't know. What are we?" We're like, "Oh, our wife's maiden name is Schrader." So we said, "Well, we're married to Schraders. We're Schraders by law, SBL. And let's make up some." Okay. So it was SBL Group for a while. And then when we bought the first laundromat, we were like, maybe this is more like Ventures. So we just made it up, SBL Ventures. So that's what SBL stands for. And it stuck. And then my wife and I relocated out here at the end of 19, just before COVID, for family reasons. We wanted our kids to grow up near cousins. And part of the deal was, hey, if we're going to do that, I'd like to maybe expand on what Dylan and I are, doing, whether it's in real estate or whatever. And I had been kind of hunting. I'd used some business brokers here locally, just looking for, at the time, passive income opportunities. And there were a few laundromats here and there, and that was familiar to me growing up in it. And long story short, we found one mid-2020, mid-COVID, great seller. It was a car wash and a laundry. We were about to sign the deal. I wrote the LOI, which was not a very good LOI. It was very generic. And I've had one of my best friends, we met each other living in the same apartment complex in Miami, Florida, when I was down there for work. He is an M&A lawyer. He's like, "Hey man, if you want me to look at the P&L, I'll take a look at it for you," because I just talked to him about it. He said, "Yeah." He calls me back. He's like, "You want capital?" And I said, "Not really, but maybe." And I was like, "I kind of need like a contract lawyer too, even though he's not our lawyer." So long story short, his name is Eric. He came in. He's very much the passive investor, other than we talk a lot, but a really good kind of, internal advisor to us. So there's 3 partners that bought, our first set of laundromats, really the first 6. And, so we bought our first one, September 25th, 2020. I was, had relocated here, left Prismian. I was running somebody's concrete company here. It was a startup. They needed a CEO. So I was doing that. We bought that. And the bank asked me, they said, "Who's going to run the laundromats?" I'm like, I'll take care of it. No problem. It'll be like 1 day a week. No big deal.
Yeah, because it's passive. It's a passive business. You hardly have to be in them, right? They run themselves. You just collect the coins.
Yeah. And by the way, there was a 4-bay car wash with this one that I knew nothing about. So fast forward maybe a year into that, I was an hour away. I was at our location probably 6 days a week, and I had some staff and stuff, but it took 6 months. And we also bought 2 other ones close to that that were kind of projects within 60 days after the first one. And it took kind of like going through that pain, and it was painful. You can ask my wife. It kind of took to kind of figure out what you needed. My goal was to always, keep working to take myself out of it. So, nobody says how can somebody touch your money, and you be able to audit them and track them. And I'm like, all right, there has to be a way. So we kind of figured that out, just with the perpetual count and the changer system. I hired somebody to come in and do the money. And I got to tell you, that freed up so much of my time, because, your laundry schedule is very much governed by your collecting schedule in the old school model, which I'm very much a big fan of the no coin laundryworks, et cetera model, and we're still working to get there. So yeah, there was just, all these, the first year, these kind of revelations about how do you take it from unpassive to semi-passive to passive. You never totally get to this side of the equation. And to this day, we're still working through that, because it's not like we bought 4 and just said, that's it. Hired a GM, which we ended up doing a couple of years later for certain territories. We continue to grow. So every time we take on a new property, every property is a little bit different. And you get some, different personalities in the staff. There's different ways to manage it, but we do have a model that we try and implement pretty much every store we get.
Whether you already have a laundromat or are looking to get into the laundry industry, everyone needs proper drainage. We use HM Company drain troughs. Their drain troughs were first created in 1991, and they have been the leading drain trough manufacturer ever since. They're made in the USA, and their drain troughs are fully customizable to meet your needs. That's why we've used them ever since entering the industry. They're easy to clean for our staff and plenty sturdy when we need to walk on them when servicing our washers. With the ability to span up to 25 feet, our troughs rarely need to be connected together, creating an easy installation. Want to slope your trough like we do? No problem. Just let the experts at HM Company know. For more information, go to their website at draintroughs.com. That is draintroughs.com. HM Company Drain Troughs. They've been leading the industry since 1991. Check them out today. Do you brand them the same way?
No.
No. Okay.
So we, like on Google, we do whatever we think there's local recognition in the name. So certain people obviously don't like this laundromat, but they like this one. And to be honest, I don't see, our strategy is we really think about laundry as kind of a utility versus a discretionary purchase. I think car washes are a little bit more discretionary, and self-storage or whatever. So we've generally kept the name unless we were contractually required to change it. I think long-term, there's some, especially as we kind of implement technology to get, some loyalty and rewards and things like that going. I think there's some value there. I think you guys have seen the value in Cincinnati, but it has not been a super big focus for us.
What about the quality of what you buy? I guess I could say, do you look for a turnkey laundromat that's already staffed, or are you going into zombie mats? Are you going in and doing complete retools? What's the quality of the store you obtain, and do you change it or keep it at that status?
Our focus on acquisitions really been around getting the location. So we bought all the above. And I can illustrate maybe our first 3. This is South Sioux City, Nebraska. Sioux City is kind of our core. We have 8 stores around there, out of, I think, 14 in the area. And there's a few other really nice ones there. But our first one was a very nice store. The previous owner, he had 3. We ended up buying all 3. He ran a good shop. And so it was turnkey, except for the fact that he did all of his own maintenance, all of his own collecting, et cetera, as you typically see with owners. So I kind of that was the role that I had to take on, as well as manage the staff. But number 2 was actually a laundromat that had closed down because the previous owner had some health conditions. Her son basically said, you're done with the mat. It's right down the road from the first one we bought. So we bought it, and it had been closed down for 3 or 4 months. Older equipment, but everything was actually well maintained. The building, if you looked at it, you didn't know what was inside it. There was no laundry sign. The paint was from 1975. So our focus there was less equipment. We're going to run what we got. We can maintain that, and more exterior. We added a big blue laundromat sign on the awning, all that kind of stuff. And then the nice thing there is I could kind of use the same staff and get some synergies between the 2 locations. So, and the third one was just maybe 5 miles south of that in Dakota City, Nebraska, near a big Tyson plant. And when we bought that, he was doing maybe $700 a week, and I won't go into numbers a whole lot, but it had good bones, and generally we buy the property with it too. So we try and avoid lease spaces. We do have lease spaces for position, but we own the real estate on 60% of our properties. But the Dakota City one was half out of order when we bought it. So the first thing we did was worked with the distributor that we had met, and now is a very good friend of ours out of Omaha. And he came up, taught me how to fix a hips dryer that I couldn't fix. And we bought some brand new touchscreen Alliance Speed Queen dryers, washers. Kind of reorganized the store because it had some good machines in it. But now when you walk in there, the first thing you see are these brand new. So I didn't do a full retool because we're in a limited budget. Basically 4 brand new touchscreen washers. So you walk in, it's clean. We did some painting, retooled, these old 40-year-old Wascos that were in there. And it's turned into a store now that's doing 4 times that weekly.
Nice.
From what we bought it at.
Who's the distributor? We like to give them props when there's good distributors out there.
Todd Santoro out of Clean Wash Laundry Systems out of Omaha. Todd's a great friend. He's been there, like I said, for us since day one. And we've got great relationships with multiple distributors. Todd, he's just the guy, when it comes to for fixing stuff or whatever, he'll take a call wherever, and he's just been a great friend. So great supplier, great friend.
Yeah, I think I'm connected with him on some of our platforms. That name is very familiar to me. So he is an Alliance Hipster Speed Queen distributor, or maybe both, in Omaha. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. All right. Give him a call.
We haven't said yet, what are the areas that you're in? So you're in South Dakota, Nebraska.
Yeah. We've and by the way, the tax laws between these states are all different. So that really throws a monkey wrench in payroll and things like that. But so we're down as far south now as Omaha, Nebraska. We've got 3 locations there, all the way up to Watertown, South Dakota. So with, Omaha's an hour 15 south of Sioux City. You go to Sioux City, another hour 10 north of Sioux Falls, where I'm sitting at right now. And then Watertown's another hour 15 north. So if you add all that up, we're basically 4 hours of I-29 is from north to south on the perimeter. And we haven't really ventured much east and west off of there. We have 4 stores, and we call it our Northwest Iowa area, which is kind of from Sioux City, maybe 30, 45 minutes northeast. And, we did it really out of, the fact that we needed, when Dylan and I go home back to the family farm on the in-laws side, and there's 15 kids running around, we need an excuse to get out of the farm and go work on some equipment. So the 4 stores are very close to the farm. So we're like, oh, we got to go work on something. Kidding, kind of kidding. Laundromats are when you're trying to acquire these things, it's a super, I call it an illiquid market. The seller's only going to sell when either the price is super, super, super right, or they're super, super, super tired of it, or ready at the age to retire. It's really one of those 3 things. Yeah. And so you can't force it. And we said, okay, we're going to go 90 miles on a radius. And we just pulled up a map one day and drew a big circle. And then, you do Google and all that. So I created a Google map, and we just called everybody and said, okay, we own a few, or would you ever be interested, et cetera. Sometimes on the other end of the call, they were like, yeah, let's meet tomorrow. And most of the time it's like, oh, okay, I'll call you whenever. So, so that's kind of how we went from, I'll say I was about the 6 store mark, and said, okay, how do we look at expanding from here?
So how passive is it now? How much time do you spend on your business?
It's pretty full time. We have a great team. So we probably got, it's always plus or minus depending on the day, but we have about 35 employees across all of them. And we've kind of, carved up the organization into areas. So each area has a lead. So we say, okay, Watertown Brookings, that's an area. So I've got a lead on that. Sioux Falls, where I sit, I have a lead on that. Sioux City, we have a lead on that. The greater Omaha area, including Fremont, we have a lead on that. And they do a really good job. They generally handle the collections. They're kind of the voice of the store back to what needs to get done. We use a centralized app for basically all of our assets and then all of our reporting documents. So it's called Connect Teams. Highly recommend. There's a little bit of learning curve with it, but we use it. We go through it once a week. I'm a big ex-corporate action item guy. Basically download it, and then myself, and I haven't talked about Tyler yet, but myself, Dylan, and then Tyler, who is our GM for basically Iowa. He came as our GM. He joined us at store 6, and he was kind of a good, I won't say runner, but since I'm an hour away, he could help intervene on a lot of things. And he joined us full time and became an owner in January of 2023, and has been with us since. He's become a very good machine guy for us, and just day-to-day management. So yeah, he does a really good job of kind of screening basically everything south of Sioux Falls, all the day-to-day noise. And
Mhm.
so we talk a lot. We talk multiple times a day, but it has prevented me from, having to go down there, and Dylan as well, having to go down there quite a bit. And also in this time frame, Dylan, he's pretty much come on full time. He also farms, so he's, I'd say, less full time. So you really have three pretty active owners here out of the four. I'm the interim GM for, as we've been growing in South Dakota, basically South Dakota. So we're bringing on a pretty key hire. It's going to be a peer to Tyler to take over South Dakota. We're going to give him actually Omaha, even though it doesn't geographically make sense. Potentially, he's just a younger guy. He can kind of get in there and help grow it, as well as controller. So we've really been active the last year to try and build this. It started as a hobby. It became a small business. And now we're starting to there's plateaus of business. We're trying to build it more like a company that, can run and, doesn't need to, I don't have to diagnose everything. So, but it's been a heck of a journey. I've learned a lot. There's so much stuff you get in corporate that I've actually, really pressed to try and implement in here. And that's, the weekly meetings, how we look at, I send out a weekly report on our revenue and stuff by income stream every single week. We really try and manage KPIs. We measure asset uptime, for example. And so every store's got to find out number of assets, which ones have a tag by Friday or which ones don't. And so we've kind of taken some of the corporate, but I got to tell you, if you go do your own thing, it's not built for everybody, in my opinion. You learn that you got to do every function, and there's also things you just never have seen, and you just have to figure it out as it comes. So it challenges you and it makes you better.
Ever wished your laundromat could answer customer calls instantly and handle every detail with ease?
Hi, I'd like some information about your pickup and delivery laundry and possibly scheduling a pickup.
Absolutely. I can help with that. Could you please share your zip code so I can check if we serve your area?
My zip code is 12345.
Great news. We do service 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Would you like to schedule for today, or would tomorrow be better?
This is LaundroBoost, the fully AI-driven call center tailored to laundromats. We train our AI for a rigorous 8 weeks to know your business better than ever and achieve a 98% success rate. Say goodbye to missed calls and chaotic scheduling. Give your customers a frictionless experience every time. Upgrade your laundromat today with LaundroBoost.
I'm curious about your model. So are all of your laundromats just self-serve only? Do you do any drop-off services? Do you do any delivery services? Are they attended? Are they unattended? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah. And we vary the model a little bit based on populations. Like we are in some towns. The smallest town we're in is 2,000 people. New cities, 100,000 people. But we're in towns, we kind of say the 10 to 20,000 to 100,000 is kind of like what we think we're good at. Again, Omaha's a little bit outside that, but our models primarily focus on self-service. When we buy a store, if we feel the employees are strong and they have a strong drop-off service, and I can make the P&L work with it. Because as you guys know, when you do drop-off and delivery and stuff, there's a lot of cost that goes into that. So, you got to really look at what's the benefit I'm getting from that staffing versus what's it bringing in. So we do out of the stores, we do Watertown, we do drop-off. We do 2 drop-off stores in Sioux City and 1 in Fremont. So we focus on self-serve. We will continue operation of the other. And it, out of those 4 stores, they do just fine. On the self-serve stores, we try and utilize technology as much as we can. Technology can't take out the trash and clean it. Not yet, anyway, I guess.
Fingers
Gotta
crossed.
have the right robot.
Yeah.
Come on, Elon, hook us up.
Yeah. I know. Our silent partner last night, we were texting about how AI is going to probably transform some white collar jobs. And I'm like, well, it's not going to fix a drain valve. And he's like, well, not yet. But so we'll see about that. But yeah, we do have, we obviously have cameras everywhere, typical stuff, camera security. We use smart door locks, all that kind of stuff to where we don't have to go meet somebody to let them in. But every store gets touched by a cleaner morning and evening. And then within that, we've got, we've got some maintenance guys, and then we have collectors that are all on a very it's kind of a casino prescribed schedule. So every store is usually getting walked into by somebody on our team, or we've gotten great relationships with third-party vendors. So like we don't do, if it's not laundry equipment, we don't do it. So we outsource the vending, we outsource the toy machine, we outsource the ATM, we outsource in Nebraska, we have skill gaming machines, we outsource all the HVAC work, the pest guy, anything that doesn't have to do with physically keeping the machines going or cleaning the store. It's not on our payroll. I mean, it is because I pay a third party. So not only do we have 4 or 5 staff members walking in there every single day, we've got multiple contractors that all have codes and everything that are going into that will tell us if we've got an issue.
So are none of your locations fully attended?
Defined fully attended. Yeah. So like our wash dry
you
fold,
actually have someone that's there from open to close that is just helping customers.
Hybrid. So our most attended store now, and we're still working through some things, is in Watertown. Somebody's generally there all the time. So like the schedule there, just so you know, is we open at 7. The gentleman that does that is there from 7 to 5. And then somebody comes in around 7 to close. That's probably our most attended. Our best wash dry fold and our best store overall is it's called River City Laundry for anybody that wants to Google it. It's an old Burger King that the previous owner renovated into a laundromat. It's 42 washers. It was done in 2015, 42 dryer pockets. And we have somebody there basically from 8 to 5. And we do wash, dry, fold, et cetera. But we also open that up to 24/7. And we got some camera monitoring going on. We also use another way for us to reach our customers, because we say clean, efficient, friendly that's our principles. Like if you keep a laundry clean, efficient as you keep the stuff working and measure your uptime. And if you take care of your customers, that's friendly. We think you can run a good laundromat. Like for the first year, I didn't have like a number up anywhere. We had like the number of the store, and if somebody wasn't there, they weren't answering. So then we put up I was talking to a different distributor, and he was like, just most of these guys use like a Walmart burner phone. So we bought the old like Nokia brick from 7th grade, and that was our customer helpline, I guess, until 6 months ago.
Who managed that? Did you have a full-time employee that did that, or?
Because it was around the time Tyler was coming on, so he did it. And then we actually hired our Sioux City area lead now, because Tyler's basically the GM. She does all the collections in Sioux City, some cleaning shifts, and then we call it Open Phone now. So we moved to a smart solution as an app called Open Phone. Highly recommend. Great solution. We get AI transcripts of every single call. We can run stats of how many calls we get a week. So that number is posted in every store that we have. So actually, while we're here, it still rings into mine. So we have a gal that manages all those calls. That is a core part of her job. And then she manages it basically from 8 to 8. And we get probably, some days it's 3 calls. Some days, on a Sunday or whatever, you can get 12, 14 calls. And then it also texts. So like it'll auto respond to the customer if we miss it or whatever. It'll say, please send us this information and we'll, somebody will be there to address it with you. So that's really been a nice, unique thing, because we've been to we scout stores that we potentially want to buy. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of stores out there that are unattended, that have no way to reach anybody.
Oh, yeah.
We have some of our competitions like that. It's crazy. Well, and you said part of your kind of model is friendly. And I was immediately thinking, I'm like, okay, how do you control friendly if you're not attended? But you're at least, even though you're not attended, you're available. There's a way to contact someone.
Yep.
You mentioned coin collections a lot. Are all of your stores quarters or coins? Or I know you mentioned you want to get the Laundroworks eventually.
Yeah, we're gonna do our first pilot with Laundroworks. I just got the quote at a store here in Sioux Falls, so I can kind of be the guinea pig. We are pretty much you gotta remember where I'm at. I'm in farmland, Iowa over here. So generally what we're buying is we're buying all quarters. We do have at River City store, it's coin and fast card.
Okay.
And on everything. So that works good. We've got another fast card store. We've got 2 very nice Dexter Pay, Dexter Live stores, which we like. App adoption here is not super great. It's probably 12% of what we take in those stores, but it's super nice because, it sends us machine errors, so slow fills. We know what to go do with that. We can restart a machine remotely. So we definitely, by those acquisitions, we've seen the value, and it's not hard to see. We've seen the value in being able to either cut down collections by getting rid of quarters, as well as remotely manage your store. And that's, as you can see, that's kind of the model we're going for. So I definitely see a vision that we're going to try and go Laundroworks everywhere. First off, it's usually funded by the quarters, or half funded or quarter funded by the sell the change machine, harvest the quarters, and you get half a Laundroworks system. So game on. And just long term, I personally worry about inflation. I mean, so on the side, I do a lot of day trading, investing, and I've got a lot of other investments. And there's only so many quarters you can put in a box, and the customer experience of, plugging on a, $15, 90-pound washer, that's 60 quarters. We had success. We had dollar coins in 2 stores. We have $2 coins in 2 stores. That works fine. That helps. But I see the long-term solution as, and we're planning to operate this for a long time. We're going to move towards the coinless at some point.
Yeah, and we're kind of doing the same thing here. But one thing that I know has been important to us, which our locations are obviously closer together, is the branding. Do you think once as you switch to LaundroWorks, will you cross brand to where then they can use that LaundroWorks card at any location? You know what I mean? Like if you just had whatever Sioux Falls Laundromat or whatever you want to call it, SBL Laundromats, and then they could use it at any SBL.
Yeah, I definitely think that's something that we'll do, whether we, brand the store associate or add in an SBL thing next to the name. We'll definitely, let's say in Sioux City, for example, we have 8 stores. When we go to Sioux City, we'll do all 8. And then we'll make that kind of a common experience everywhere. For sure.
Yeah, when they're 2, 3, 4 hours apart, branding isn't as powerful. But if you got 8 in a 30-mile radius or something like that, branding those the same would be pretty powerful.
Yeah, totally agreed.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, when you're looking to acquire a store, is it a laundromat and is it available for sale? Or is there a little bit more to the size associated with it?
How we look at stores, locations very important to us. Condition of store is very, very important. If we can get the real estate or not, very, very important. So we try to also weigh out the headache factor. It's like, I just got a text about one that's north of Watertown that maybe the guy wants to sell, and I'm like, all right, there's a headache factor associated with it because I'm not going there right now, or we don't have people in that area already.
Yeah.
As a former manufacturing guy, I was all about absorbing fixed overhead. So I'm like, okay, Sioux City, if 2 more wanted to come up for sale, I may even pay a little extra as a multiple or something on that, or I'm more attracted to that buy because I've got such a strong team already there locally. Integrating that is way,
plug them right in. Yeah,
it's way easier than, we just entered Omaha. Day one, it's like, all right, who's going to clean the thing? Obviously we're thinking about it before, but you're talking about new people and you're introducing new variables and it's a new area that you're not sure of. So yeah, we look at everything from the financials to location to also just, how is it within our timeline? I mean, if we haven't bought any for a year, which hasn't happened in a while, but maybe we're a little hungrier and it fits a strategic need or whatever, maybe if, we're on the back end of, we just acquired, this will Tuesday be our 7th one this year. We have our target list of people that we've already talked to. And if any of those call tomorrow, we'll figure out how to do it. But am I hunting outside of that right now? Maybe like we were hunting a year ago, not so much. We got enough to optimize and figure out with what we just bought.
Do you see yourself in your company sticking with your current model, which I would describe your current model as a basic self-serve laundromat? You're providing a good service for your community, but not adding all the additional services. And you're outsourcing a lot of even the other possible revenue streams, like the ATM, like the games, like all that other kind of stuff. Do you see yourself sticking with the basic model of self-serve and just building more and more locations? Or do you see yourself eventually trying to optimize the revenue of the locations you have by maybe not outsourcing those other revenue streams or adding more wash, dry, fold, or adding even delivery? What do you see for your future? Do you know?
Good question. We definitely, every year we do a budget meeting and we go through basically percent of revenue, where are we spending money, or where are we not gaining money that we could gain by splitting ATM fees or whatever. And we kind of have a discussion around like, what are we going to do? Are we still focused on growth and locations? Location growth has been our number one thing because it's, if you think about kind of like where we're buying, like towns at 10, 20, strategically, we don't think we'll have a lot of future competition in some of these towns just because of the, just kind of the pace that things go. But also we find we've made decent money on buys after the fact. One of our principles is day one synergies of the unicorn. So an example is if you buy a store and the guy's owned it for 15 years, he didn't have any staff, cleaned it himself, just kind of got through the day and didn't raise a price for 15 years. Dave, you had a post the other day about how it's crazy that laundromats have never really taken care of themselves via price. And I'm not saying, I don't not gouge, but just charge for, put in very good. So we always put in a team. I'm not cleaning that laundromat, for example, and I'm talking about a specific one. I won't name the name, but charge for the service that you're providing. And obviously you catch headaches and stuff with that. But we went into a particular town and prices, we painted some stuff, we fixed up the machines, we put in a very good staff to make sure it was clean every single day. And we usually do like a deep cleaning blitz when we buy one. So we'll paint like the bases and clean the things that's the crevices that haven't been seen in years. Prices went up. And so did the reviews. The reviews were previously 2 or 3 stars. They're all 4 or 5. Thank you for giving this town a clean place to do your laundry. And so if you think about like your customer and what value that they're looking for, I think clean might be number one on value, clean and working. We find value in bringing those principles to new locations. I do think there is opportunity to grow our services and our drop off. I think like delivery laundry is probably a little futuristic still. So our focus really has been on locations. What value can we add quickly to those and then run them well? And yeah, so I don't really have an answer on, are we going to internalize ATMs, vending, et cetera? But I also know when I do that will potentially, that's more things to manage. So it might slow down our speed on the other end. So our focus has been on the other end.
Would you like to make more money from your laundromat? Would you like those machines you're paying for to have more turns per day? Do you offer wash, dry, fold services or pickup and delivery laundry services? If not, would you like to? Whether you do or not, we have an amazing opportunity for you in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, you've probably heard about it, guys, but it's our wash, dry, fold, pickup and delivery workshop. And to answer your first question, yes, it is for drop-off laundry, wash, dry, fold, and pickup and delivery. So if you're doing any of those things, this workshop is going to help you tremendously. But the truth is, we were pretty so-so laundromat owners and so-so successful until we launched drop-off laundry and pickup and delivery. And being able to what I call optimize your laundromat to generate more profit and more revenue out of the existing facility, that's the key to taking your life from good to great, financially speaking, with laundromats. And that's what made us Laundromat Millionaires.
You don't have to just listen to us. Listen to what some of our past attendees have to say about our Wash, Dry, Fold Pickup and Delivery Workshop in Cincinnati, Ohio.
It was the best workshop I've attended in over 25 years. And what you guys have put together is nothing short of phenomenal. I think that you guys have put together both strategic and tactical systems that will make an individual who wants to own the laundromat profitable within months, not years.
Was a workshop worth the investment? Without a doubt, it was definitely worth the investment. So not only did we have 2 very packed days with Dave and Carla and their team, both in the classroom and touring the facilities, but we also came away with this extensive 100-page handbook. And then after the workshop was completed, I received a bunch of electronic performers and templates that we've been able to use since the workshop. Every day since the workshop, I've found myself referring back to either those electronic tools or the handbook that we received. So,
was it worth the investment? Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I cannot say that enough. This was such a blessing, and I am so very grateful that Dave and Carla put this together and are sharing their knowledge and experience with others to have this to grow their business and to become more successful. Thank you, guys.
So are you interested? Go to laundromatmillionaire.com to learn more and see where you can register.
I know we don't have a ton of time left, but something I think probably one of the greatest values of this episode to people is how in the world do you manage almost 23 locations? So some of your tips and tricks for how you do this. I know you've already mentioned the Connect Teams app. You mentioned, was it called Open that you use for the phone
Open
service?
phone. Yep.
Open phone. Another one, you mentioned how you were able to get other people to collect for you. Can you talk a little more about that? And then, two, any other tips you have for how you manage so many stores and not just so many stores, but in a broad area. But I'm sorry, 90 miles apart is pretty far.
I know. Trust me, it's not super fun to do at midnight. Yeah, so the collections has been, obviously when we started, I did it, and you kind of got to know the flow of, how you guys know how the quarters work. I mean, you have probably not so much in fully attended stores, but we have stores where they're around apartments. So people come in and take the quarters out of there. So, stores that either generate quarters or they leak quarters. And so you kind of get the flow of that. But every store has a very regimented collecting schedule. I'm a big bottleneck guy from manufacturing. So it's like, all right, you either have a box bottleneck from a collecting schedule or you have a changer bottleneck. So you got to find the sweet spot on your pricing there. And then, then you just develop a schedule, then you adjust after that. So Northwest, we collect, I probably shouldn't say that in case there's any scammers out there, but basically we collect 5 days a week and it's very specific days. So you kind of figure out based on the volume of that store, what that kind of dictates your collection schedule. The other store over here, it's done 4 times a week. And so our process around that is, so we generally collect every collection, you collect every machine, tote box, whatever. And we basically have them take pictures of the changer, pre-fill, post-fill, and then we keep a changer book in there. And so you write down the perpetual count. The bills that you pull out of there will match the perpetual count, unless you either test the changer or you give a refund. And then that is all uploaded into Connecting. So that tells me, I can then match the changer count to what's deposited, but also I can get a feel for how I value working capital in the stores and if we need to buy any quarters or do any rotations with that. So
what would keep them from stealing? Obviously, the changer is keeping them from being able to steal cash from the changer. Correct. Because you have that count. What would keep them from being able to steal money from all the boxes they're dumping? Do you have any kind of check in place for that? We get this question a lot because the camera. Because a lot of people have trouble leaving their laundromat because they can't trust anybody to do the collection.
What I've always told the collectors, I'm like, if you guys want to take a couple quarters out of the box, you might get it for a little while, but I'll find you because we do have very good cameras and we will, you get a call about something, you got to go back and scroll and you're like, I've never had an issue. I think I've learned a lot of lessons around trust, and one is when it comes to money, it's like hard to trust people, right? But on the flip side, because you've got cameras and because, I basically respond to every receipt that's put in there. And sometimes you ask rhetorical questions just to check that the guy knows what's going on, or legitimate, but there's definitely a strong eye on it. So yeah, there's some risk to that. Also a very big benefit of Laundromat. I'm not trying to plug your company, Alex, but I think when it comes to auditing and all that, we see tremendous value in that long term. Quarters are just a means to start a machine. They're a means to run the business. We want to change that means over time, but I do think it's doable in the current system. We've done it for 5 years, that at least with the, and I don't want to, we have great collectors. So if they watch this, I don't want them thinking I'm threatening them, but with the eyes of cameras and all that kind of stuff, and the diligence around it and enough questions being asked, I feel pretty comfortable with where we're at. But it's a real question. It was the number one question I even got from my dad. He's like, you're gonna have somebody else touch your money. And I'm like, it's the only way I can do it.
Yeah. That used to be, still is a big no-no in most people's eyes.
It took us a while.
Well, that's when I got in the industry, my mentor was my distributor, who's still a good friend of mine. And it was the one thing he told me, that one of a couple maybe, that I haven't done. He was like, don't ever let someone else touch your money ever. And that's not the case today. We have a GM that does all our collections. So, I thought that was a little bit okay.
We have the audit of the machine. We have all the cameras. Yeah. We have basically the same policies you do. Yeah. So all those checks. Another question I have, and I'm the bookkeeper for our laundromats still, in our businesses. So this is kind of a bookkeeping question because I know you said that you're kind of the CFO. Is with 23 different locations, books wise. So you keep every location separate? Is each one its separate LLC? Like, how do you do that accounting wise?
We have 4 LLCs. We have 2 in Nebraska, 1 in Iowa, 1 in South Dakota. So then we just basically, there's different reasons why I have 2 in Nebraska. Each of those has a set number of stores. And then, so I measure, each store has every revenue driver of that particular store. By the way, I do all this in Excel. That's what
you don't use an accounting software?
we use QuickBooks for payroll.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What method of the madness here? I did talk to another multi-store operator that I haven't written down the name of the multi-site software. I'm not a huge QuickBooks fan. I ran a business on QuickBooks before. But,
I mean, that's what I use, but I've heard that there's other ones too. I mean, Quicken's another popular one.
When the new controller starts, I know he'd like to move away from Excel, which I don't blame him, because I built a laundry GL, like I managed my personal GL, and now it's kind of turned into a thing. So the nice thing about Excel is I can, I'm a big macro and cell linker and a nerd. It says on my little thing, Excel is my second wife. So it's interesting with Excel. Like, I built it the way it works for me. No problem. I can update each week's books probably in an hour and a half, with everything. We know at some point we're going to have to transition to something that's smarter. Because as this thing grows and we have more columns and more. But you asked a question about, do we have store P&Ls? So I have the ability in there. So I basically have an income statement for each LLC with every expense driver and every revenue driver. So, like, an example is River City has self-serve laundry. We own the building, so we have actually a rental property on it. So we have a rent, and then we have drop-off laundry as 3 income streams. And then with the commission checks that I get from, like, the toy guys and everything, they just go in there.
So you examine at the LLC level, but do you examine at the store level too?
Yeah.
The P&L?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So I would,
because an LLC would be a chunk of stores, right?
A chunk of stores. So I have in that LLC GL, I've got every store income driver. So by store. So every week we can see by store how the revenue is doing. And then on the expense side, I've got expense categories, and then I can sub that out by store. So I don't run store P&Ls all the time, but like yesterday, I spent a couple hours and sent one of the guys. We try and look at it a couple times a year. But basically, when we buy a store, we say, okay, as long as it's hitting this, revenue or above, it should be covering the financing structure. It should be covering all the expenses. And then, like, I've got a target percent of revenue for labor by store. I'm actually looking at it right over here, as well as the schedule. So we kind of measure it that way. So our weekly management report is basically around those metrics I just said. So store revenue by stream, direct labor as a percent of revenue. We do measure a P&L every week on the drop-off stores, assumed basically labor, and then what that takes in, just so we know we're not upside down. Yeah. And then we measure just our evolution of how many open assets we have, just so we're, not growing or ballooning that. So yeah, it's definitely not perfect, but the reason I like Excel is because I like to forecast. So I can forecast cash flows in the future. So as we're starting to buy a store, I'm like, okay, by October, we ought to have enough cash to go take on this one or do this one. So it just gives me a very good handle on cash generation. But I said earlier, we're trying to become a company and not a small, hobby or small business anymore. The Excel's a hobby. Yeah. So we know at some point that's going to have to change.
Well, I will say QuickBooks is integrating all kinds of AI, of course, now.
Nice. Okay.
And so it does a lot of the forecasting and stuff like that using AI from your previous data. It does a lot of AI analysis of your different expenses, categorizing them for you, analyzing receipts and going ahead and categorizing, because we have all our employees input their receipts and everything. So I will say it's starting to...
We have them doing Connect Teams. Okay. Very cool. But then at least in QuickBooks, you can match it exactly back to that transaction.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay. So they're starting to justify the expense they are.
It's not cheap. I mean, even payroll. So we have payroll with 3 entities because there's not really reciprocity on the state tax code. So it's not super cheap. I
have one last question, and it's actually around some of this stuff we just talked about. How do you do that? If you have, I'm just going to make this up and say you have 4 LLCs and you have 23 stores, which payroll are you on? Which payroll is Bob Smith on? And if Bob Smith is on a payroll of an LLC that has 6 locations, but you need him at number 8, do you have an operating company that kind of umbrellas above the LLCs? Or do you, payroll wise, do you only provide labor or assistance to an LLC that you're on the payroll of? Is everybody on all the payrolls? Trying to get my head around that.
We've generally done it by state of residence, which also matches the locations at which they work. Actually, it matches. I don't think we've even got an exclusion on that. So I'm going to answer your last question first. Is we are going to restructure here in the next year to a holding company, and then that would basically be your payroll company, et cetera. It's more of a management kind of company, and then that management company then would pay me for my time, Dylan, Tyler, et cetera. How we're doing it today at the advice of our tax. We do have a tax accountant, by the way, who's excellent. So they do the taxes and everything. And
we do too. I don't do the taxes.
Well, once you start getting into bonus appreciation and stuff, I'm like, all right, we're just going to pay somebody for that.
Yep.
And they're great. But we basically, as owners of the entity, we are not considered employees of the entity. We take what she called it, basically guaranteed income.
Like distributions or?
Yeah, so we basically take management distributions for our time on, and then we have partner distributions for dividends, But the management distributions are basically like, it's not untaxed. Basically, it's like self-employment salary, and then, but we don't pay that through QuickBooks. That's all reconciled at the end of the year. But from our direct labor standpoint, and I'll say our QuickBooks team, they basically are paid for the stores that they operate in. We do have some exceptions to where, like, we have somebody that does work at all 8 of them in Sioux City, even though Sioux City is divided up between 2 states. And so we've got to do some work behind the scenes on QuickBooks there. We pay her out of Iowa, but then, there's some that we've got to do kind of behind the scenes at the end of the year, just for tax code and everything. So it's not perfect, Dave, maybe is the answer to your question. And the vision is, we are going to try and get to a holding company that we can make things a lot simpler in that regard.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks for sharing this with us. I can't believe you've went from zero. And I know you grew up in the industry. So we didn't really cover that, but just so everybody knows, Jon grew up in the industry. His dad owned a distributorship. So he grew up collecting coins and, what'd you say, blowing lint? Is that what you said? Lint?
Oh yeah. Lint patrol.
Lint
That's
patrol.
The most fun job ever.
Yeah. So some of the things we didn't really cover today in detail that are in Jon's background, he probably naturally got into. So there's probably a lot of people at home wondering a little bit about, like, wow, he went from 0 to 23 laundromats and they fix all the machines themselves and do all this. That's probably second nature to you, I would think. auditing changers and things like that. But very cool. So it sounds like you've what is the old saying? Putting the airplane together as you're taking off or whatever. Isn't that what we all do in small business?
100%. Yeah, we're definitely, as you can tell, we're getting there. We're still trying to kind of become a company. I think the thing that's really helped keep the airplane together as it's taking off is there's an enormous amount of trust. We have hard conversations, but there's an enormous amount of trust with the partners, to be honest, and the team. And we've held our team to a pretty high standard, and trust is pretty much the number one. And there's a lot of partnerships. And work ethic. I mean, everybody's going to kind of hold their own end of the bargain. And, like, I guess I could go on vacation for a month and not send out the financials and all that kind of stuff, but that's not super fair to, like Tyler and the guys on the ground that are fixing igniter boxes today in Iowa, so we talk a lot. I mean, communication's absolutely key. And, situations when we haven't been in them before, having 4 heads together to figure out how to address it is better than 1. So it's fun. It's fun. It doesn't mean that it's perfect. And we like to keep growing. I think we've got a path to, not to totally, show the wizard, but I mean, I think we've got a path to 30 in the target region just based on conversations and stuff over the next 5 years. I mean, we've got to know when to hit the accelerator and the gas and stuff and own what we got, but we'll keep hiring the right people and putting the right pieces in place to where it can be a super passive company.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where you all are in 5 and 10 years. I mean, you all are young. You still got a lot ahead of you. So I think you're on a very good trajectory. And it's interesting to see you on that trajectory and see where you end up.
We appreciate you sharing. I think what you're doing is pretty unique compared to a lot of people, but I do think a lot of people see where they are at maybe, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 stores, whatever, and think, what would it look like if we did this and this? And so maybe they pulled some nuggets out of here, whether it's the apps or the spreadsheets or whatever that looks like, to build the plane as we take off, so to speak. And I think it's really important that you're very authentic about what we do works. It's functional. It's not necessarily perfect. Every year we're going to get better at what we do operationally and expertise. There's of course a floor, a minimum standard of that clean and safe and all those things, functional, the uptime. You're focusing on the core parts of the business. And then you're like, okay, let's go back and start to polish these things. I caught real quickly before I let you go. I mean, I noticed you went from 0 to 23 in 5 years, and you were like, we make it to 30 in the next 5. Okay, well, that only means roughly 1 a year, right? So now it's time to go back and polish this plane up and give it a good wax job.
Yeah.
I noticed that too, which I think is probably really smart.
Yeah, I think particularly like if we want to go Laundroworks everywhere, that's a serious project, right? I mean,
that's an investment.
Just did it. That's an investment. And I don't want to cap us. I just want to make sure, I think we've got enough scale in the areas that we're at to make sure to afford a good team to run those. And I think we have most of that good team together. Now it's continuing to own the processes. Again, we have the bones of that pretty good, but processes, or how do you, Carla, you said, how do you put the money back in your pocket from the stuff you outsource, even collecting cost. I look at that all the time, and that's not, again, we got plenty of other stuff for our collectors to do if they're not collecting coins, but how do you focus on the business, say what's governing your business, and then can you put in technology to help ungovern that maybe? But yeah, we'll see. I'm excited. I've got pretty, I'd say pretty aggressive aspirations, not just for this business, but for just what the next 10 years look like. We've had a lot of fun. We made a lot of mistakes, and so far, more good than bad, I guess. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, listen, Jon, we know your time is important. You could be out fixing washers and dryers right now, but instead, or playing with spreadsheets. But instead, you're here talking with us.
Right over here, that's just like begging me to come.
I know you're chomping at the bit. I can see it. But instead, you took the last hour and a half to share with our audience, guys. One of the things we talked about, our audience back home. One of the things we talked about before we hit record was that, a big part of why what Jon was doing this is he wants to network more and get to know other people in the industry. And hopefully you recognize kind of like a friendly face if you see Jon at the Clean Show, or you see him at a conference or networking event or whatever. I know he's a big networker. He wants to build more relationships in the industry. So don't be shy. Go up to him and say hi, and tell him you saw him on our show.
Love it.
So,
well,
awesome.
Thanks for having me, guys, and hope to meet you here in person here pretty soon.
Yeah, hopefully we see you at the Clean Show. That'd be great. All right, for everyone back home, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show, sponsored by HM Company, DrainTroughs.com. We will see you all next time. Take care.